Cool. Get James into conversation. Right, okay, so you guys that are on Facebook and YouTube, we'll just wait a couple of minutes just to get started with Instagram for people to log on, and then we'll get started. So just wait for James to join on Instagram, and then we'll get everyone started, guys. Cool, Maria.
All right, all good.
Cool, all good, all good. So, like I said, James, we've just been on having a little bit of a chat. So, in a minute, we're live on Facebook and YouTube. Okay, so hence why we'll be looking up there and looking back downstairs, and then we're also onto Instagram as well. So, all we'll do to start with, guys, is obviously this week is kicking off on nutrition and lifestyle element of these workshops. So, we've had a big emphasis on training and getting back in the gym. Now, over the next 3 weeks, we've got next 3 weeks, yeah, we've got nutritional topics. So today is all the basics about how to build a diet and the foundations of fitness, of nutrition. Next week, we're talking about plant-based diets and the trends with that at the moment. And then the week after that, we're also then talking about supplementation of vitamins and minerals. So there's different ways that we can go through to this, but first of all I'll do is I'll hand you over to James, and James will just give a bit of a brief introduction of who he is and what he does.
Yeah, Ricky. Hi there. I'm James. I am a coach. I've worked with Ricky. We've been part of the same coaching group for several years now, combined strength. But a bit of background to me, I suppose. I originally studied pharmacy at the University of Bath. So I graduated in 2013 now, and worked as a pharmacist for probably 3 years full time. Whilst I was at the uni, I also did my PT course and then worked for a few years at the PT alongside whilst I was graduating, which was great, really nice high performance centre there. After a few years of pharmacy working patient facing, then decided that actually I'd rather have more of an impact on prevention rather than cure, shall we say. Moved back into the kind of the coaching space, and then did my nutrition qualification with Matt Nutrition Uni, I completed in 2017, as to be basically become a certified nutritionist, and been working in that capacity as well ever since then, really. So combining the coaching and the nutrition to kind of give the best outcomes for clients, as well as dabbling in some of the pharmacy stuff and using it in there as well. So that's pretty much my brief intro.
Cool, awesome. So just give us a bit a background about where you're currently based. So whereabouts do you work out of, what you do, like currently, obviously I know everyone's online at the minute, but where you normally work out of, mate?
Yeah, so I'm currently based in North London, and so kind of Finsbury Park and London Field, if you know London, kind of east. I currently work out of a commercial gym part of the time, so currently pre-pandemic, I worked in a commercial gym part of the time, and out face one-to-one or like face-to-face at the time. And I also do obviously some purely online coaching, which is a combination of nutrition and training, and also purely nutrition-based programming and coaching as well alongside that.
Cool, perfect. So basically, general gist now, and I think James also, if you do follow him or you do know of him, you'll notice that he's also an absolute bodyweight training ninja. So he's pretty much like, you're a big guy and quite heavy, like heavy stacked, and you can do some amazing things bodyweight wise. So you need to check some of those out, because obviously that's a big thing of yours as well, I should imagine, in terms of your training, isn't it?
Yeah. So I like to incorporate the bodyweight stuff. I find the gymnastics is sort of like the kind of ultimate meta skill. I think understanding where your body is in space and to control it. Whether you're on your hands or single leg squats and doing whatever you want is really good fun. It's a nice challenge, but also as a foundation training, actually being able to like manipulate your body and be strong through like your full range of movement, and actually it gives you a really solid foundation when it comes to then moving into lifting weights or your sport, for example, because you just can condition the joints really effectively. It mixes in really well, I think, with your weight stuff as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the foundation of all exercise, isn't it? So it makes a massive difference. So just we'll get into nuts and bolts of it, but like I said, like normal guys, if you guys have any questions about nutrition mainly, but if you also have anything about fitness, about it might be how to do a handstand, how to do a single leg squat, whatever it's going to be, okay, just post any question you have in the comment section, and we'll be more than happy to cover those with you guys. So like I said, let's go into the main bulk of it, which is about nutrition and how to build a diet up. So we'll start with a basic question, James, which is basically like, what is a diet? Like, and what is that to people?
So I think there's two ways you can look at it. I talk about the two ways you can look at it. So one is your diet as like a holistic thing. So everything that your diet would be kind of just how you eat regularly. So whether you're vegan, vegetarian, whether you eat omnivorously, whatever you choose to eat, that will constitute your diet. And then we obviously have this kind of colloquial term of going on a diet, i.e. trying to lose weight, which I think is, people often mistake the two, and that's it. I don't want, you're kind of on a diet forever, rather than actually you want to make your diet fit your lifestyle to get the outcome that you want.
So we've lost you on there, James.
So it's going to go off, but
there we go. I think we're going to have to start right from the beginning, mate. We lost you on Instagram. Sorry.
I don't know what's going on. It seems like it's going to just keep cutting itself off. So I'll keep tapping the screen. But anyway, so as I was saying, there's two kind of ways I think you can look at diet. One is holistically, so everything you eat, as you go through your life, that is your diet, your dietary habits, for want of a better phrase. And the other one is like a small chunk of time. So if you go on a diet, for example, where we're generally wanting to cut weight, that is a separate thing to me as compared to your diet as a whole. Like, one is to serve a purpose of getting you to lose weight, and the other one is how you maintain that weight or not over time is going to be affected by your diet overall. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think it hits nail on the head, because I think you get this as well. Like predominantly myself and my trainers, we predominantly work with a lot of people who are wanting to lose weight or have been yo-yo dieters, and they are constantly on a diet, not a lifestyle eating regime, as almost as I like to call it. And I think so. In terms of that, it's just finding out a little bit about how can somebody build a diet specifically for them. So if you guys are watching this and you are on a diet, or you've got any questions about anything to do with that, or you want us to use you as an example to basically try and build in a diet, just comment below, and we're more than happy to use a real person rather than making someone up. But let's start with basics then. So how do you start with finding out what your daily requirements are, calories wise, macros wise? Just explain a little bit about what calories and macros are, so we'll go really into basics.
Sure. So we'll start off with what calories are then, because that's probably the best place to start, and then the rest of it can expand out from there. So a calorie is a calorie is probably something you've heard before, and all that means is a calorie is basically just a unit of energy, or it's a measurement of a unit of energy. So it's technically the amount of energy that is required to heat 1 gram of water by 1 degree. So your food is basically burnt, and then that energy that's given off is basically the calorific value. But obviously our body is the measurement we use. Our body will convert the food we eat into glucose, for example, and then we can use glucose to create ATP, and that then is what we use for respiration for ourselves to allow us to move, etc. So we can basically say, for a given weight of person with a given activity level, they will need a certain energy requirement per day, which we convert into calories, but let's just keep it really simple. And then you just need to figure that out, and that energy requirement is your maintenance calories. So you will stay at the same weight if you eat your maintenance calories based off your activity level. Now, there's 4 main macronutrients.
So just stop me there a minute. So just to be really basic, is it going down to the old idea of it's about calories in, calories out?
So it's about thermodynamics essentially. Calories in, calories out is a way of measuring that for sure. So if you eat more calories than you burn over a time period, day, week, month, year, if you eat more calories than you burn, you're going to gain weight over that time period. If you eat the same amount of calories, you're going to stay at the same weight, and if you eat fewer calories than you burn, you're obviously going to lose weight over that time period. Now, I think probably an important thing to say to start with is that the body doesn't work off like this 24-hour cycle that we've decided it does. So having daily calorie allowances does work sometimes, but actually if you extrapolate that and have like a weekly allowance, when we come on to talk about this in a bit, that actually gives you a lot more flexibility throughout the week for life, basically. So you can go out for a meal one day, and then it just means that you can decrease your calories throughout the week, for example.
Rather than working on the fact that you say, for example, you've got the recommended for females is 2,000, let's just say that. But if you go over 2,000, that's your week's screwed, you can't claim it back. So it's basically it's over a course of a week that it's in like a kind of a cumulative. So if you go mental on a Monday, then you have to make it up for the rest of the week almost.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is why we see kind of people doing this essentially quite a lot of the time when they're really strict in the week, and then Friday, Saturday, maybe Sunday, have a few drinks, whatever, go out, and then wonder why they don't lose any weight. And it tends to be because actually your whatever deficit you've created in the week is like removed by your weekend, and that just kind of repeats. So that's quite a big issue when it comes to weight loss. Massively underestimating how easy it is to actually eat back the calories.
Like how many calories in a pizza or a bottle of wine or something. It's so easy. So I think most people always think they need more calories than they actually do, and then you probably get this as much as I do. But I always get the first trigger. What I get from clients when they're a new client is, I don't eat that bad, but they're 4 stone overweight. And like I said, and for those guys that are watching this, that we will use weight as a real guide, because it's just then easy rather than talk about fat and body composition and stuff. But the main thing about this is that if you are overweight, so you feel like you're overweight, then you probably are doing something wrong with your diet, okay, or your activity levels. So we're doing this on a general basis. However, like I said, it's about we are talking about making you understand the basics of what calories are and what macronutrients are. Cool. Go on.
I think something probably quite important to say at this point is that actually, weight is nothing other than a measurement. So all I ever use weight for is to see how our diet's going. Like if people want to become a bit leaner or lose some body fat, weight as a measurement, and that is it. So we will often use spaces and then average that out across the week, because then you can take into account fluctuate and you see a trend. That's all we're going to use for. I really try hard to encourage people to not fixate on the weight on the scale, because it is a number.
But for some reason, it seems to be the pinnacle cornerstone of everybody's definitive way of success. And I think that's where it's the diet mindset rather than lifestyle mindset. And I think, like I said, it's getting that mixed together. But like I said, so talk about in terms of we understand the basic what calories are. So what are macronutrients? Because everyone hears a lot about make it fit your macros, or how much you should have of this, how much you should have of that. So just explain what macronutrients are, and how important they are to the body.
So macronutrients are basically the 4 categories that we put kind of food groups in. So we've got a protein, we've got carbohydrates, we've got fats, and I'm going to count alcohol as the 4th one here because we can actually, the body can use it, oxidize it is the term we use, to generate energy. The thing with alcohol is we can't store it, so it does get oxidized or used preferentially when we drink it. So that is quite important if you drink. It is the 2nd most calorific, so 7 calories per gram. Okay, protein and carbohydrate both have 4 calories per gram, and fat 9 calories per gram. Now, obviously, the food you intake is normally a mixture of 2 or more, often. And there's plants, for example, they've always got some sort of protein in, mostly carbohydrates. Fair enough, and meats are a good mix of fats and protein. Obviously, there's some glucose going to be protein around there anyway. When we take that as a whole, the most important one of those 4 really is the protein, and that's just because we utilize that for muscle building or other processes in the body. And if we take in sufficient protein, it means that we can build muscle if we're in a certain effectively or maximally. We can retain as much as possible when we're in a deficit, which is what we want. If we're eating very low protein, for example, and we're dieting, what we can see is actually loss as well.
Yeah.
Which obviously we want to avoid when we're looking to get lose fat. So
let's go on. So in terms of like muscle loss, what causes muscle loss?
So basically, it's a factor of having insufficient protein balance in the body. So you're obviously when you're training, for example, you're going to be doing damage to the muscles. They need to repair, to get stronger. That requires a lot of protein. So when we intake protein, obviously that goes into protein the body can use protein as an energy source. Break it down, convert it to ATP, and then we can use that for energy. So that's where we get this sort of muscle protein breakdown. It's perfectly normal. If, especially overnight, for example, the body would just kind of end up using some protein for creating energy. It's not a particularly efficient process, but so preferentially, let's say the body would use fat or carbs. Yeah, carbs is the easiest access, it's the quickest, and that's obviously a big energy store.
So basically, in summary, you've got protein, carbs, fats, alcohol, or macronutrients.
Yeah, essentially.
And alcohol and fats are the highest calorific macronutrients out of all 4.
Yeah. We can't store alcohol. Obviously, we can store fat.
Okay, cool, perfect. So how does somebody know that they need, how much of each macro they need for that? And I know this is a very generic question, and you're going to use it depends.
Yeah.
But like I said, let's just go for somebody who is overweight, has just started training again. Because one of the key things, and this is one of the questions that I get asked all the time about this as well, is when someone starts training and it is weight loss orientated initially, there is obviously to work out how many grams of protein they need, there's obviously a calculation. So it's like somewhere between 1.5 to 2.5 grams per kilogram. I am right with that answer.
Again, it's on the protein side of things. The official guidelines, government-wise, is 0.8 grams per kilo is your let's call it your minimum guidance. I wouldn't say it's optimal. The minimum amount you need for getting healthy is not having enough.
Yeah.
In reality, that probably should be what we think with kind of the research around. And if you look at some of the research by like and stuff like that, he suggests optimal is about 1.6 per kilo. You can push it up to 2 grams per kilo. It's not too difficult to do that much. And you're probably going to have got to the top end of the benefits and provide an assisted athlete.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of the studies have gone 2.5 up to 3, which is, in my opinion, like far too high.
Yeah.
Just because it's really hard to eat that much. It's really expensive, and the benefits don't really show up.
Assuming that is depending on if you're an elite athlete or how much you train, or does that actually matter?
It doesn't make as much difference as you think. I think because it's based off what, like, grams per kilo of body weight. Now, when it comes to weight loss, for example, you're still going to see benefits anywhere in the range of like probably 1.4 to 1.62. Yeah, that's going to be our range, and we can use protein really effectively in that situation to help with curbing hunger and things like that. Is quite satiating.
Yeah.
So, it's quite filling. And then if we're looking to maximally build muscle, we'd think more about how we split the protein up through the day to maximize our muscle protein synthesis. So we probably have maybe 4 options every kind of 4 to 6 hours.
So that's where having small meals every now and again, or more meals with the right splits, is the right approach if you're trying to maintain muscle mass.
Yeah, let's say protein serving part of the meal. That's the protein shake, for example. That is enough to spike your protein synthesis maximally for that period.
Yeah.
Obviously, if we want to have more, that's fine. It's not a problem. It's not a fact. It's not a matter of X amount of protein per hour, as much as it needs to. Basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally speaking, I think personally, from what I've read and experienced, actually, you definitely make
it. So let's stick with proteins. It's just, I find the one thing that everybody is an expert about in the world, no matter what shape they're in, no matter what profession they're in, is nutrition and diets. Everybody is an expert. So you speak to Shelley down the road, you speak to John down the road, and they all have a different opinion. And every personal trainer, every nutritionist, every dietitian has a different opinion about what's right. But the one thing that most people always agree on is protein.
Yeah.
So let's just start with protein as a basic that it's a fundamental part of anybody's diet. Now, let's look at it this way. So obviously we're using those calculations in terms of like 1.5, let's just say, for argument, 1.5 per gram of body weight. Now, what happens if somebody is 3 stone overweight?
In terms of,
so for example, let's say, let's do it in kilograms instead. So let's say somebody weighs 100 kilograms, but is, let's say, 20 kilograms overweight.
Okay.
Are they aiming for that 100 kilograms worth of protein, so 1.5 times 100, or do they need less with them being overweight?
So they wouldn't necessarily need less. You could get away with less, and it would be fine.
Yeah.
The way that I would tend to do, so you've got 2 options when it comes to sort of, if you're going to track your calories, let's say, because that's where the math comes into play. But if you're going to track your calories, you've got 2 options. One is you base yourself off the current body weight of the person, and then you create a deficit from there, which the maths allows you to do. Or if you know a specific goal weight, actually a kind of a shortcut way can be you can take the goal weight, base your calories off that, and then then you can just shoot for maintenance there, and you're going to see if it's a big goal, for like say they're 20 kilos overweight, you will see that should create a deficit for sure.
So it's about a track. So let's go down to this. So this is kind of a sideline, and we are skipping over fats and carbs because there is so many different methodologies. I don't really want to get into right now in this talk about keto diets, slimming world, all that type of thing. We can talk about that at the end. But if we just stay on this track of giving people useful information initially, where it's a foundation. So we understand that in order to track protein intake, we're doing 1.5 grams per kilogram of weight. Yeah. So in terms of tracking, like, what do you class as a good way of tracking to make sure that you are progressing? So how does somebody start?
So again, it's always going to be, first most of what I say, it depends, because it's massively person dependent. There's something like a lot of people that you work with will really like tracking methods, and they'll like using methods, and they're happy with that. Other people just can't be bothered to plug all their food in, I think, and that's absolutely fine. Ultimately, that is kind of what we want people to be able to do, I would suggest. we don't want to have to rely on an app for the rest of our lives. But to start with, it can be quite useful just to get a gauge of how much protein you're taking in. So
with the app, you talk about MyFitnessPal. Is that it?
Yeah, that one will work. There's a few other ones that you can use as well, I think. I tend to have a chat with the people specifically and actually figure out what works for them. But if you use easy maths, so if you pick 1.5 or 2 grams a kilo, just because it makes the maths easy.
Yeah.
Let's take this hypothetical 100 kilo person. We know we need somewhere in the region of 150 to 200 grams of protein a day.
Yeah.
You can obviously just input that into your MyFitnessPal, and you'll see the food you eat on a daily basis, and it'll tell you how many you've eaten. Or you can obviously go on the back of the packet and I'm eating the whole packet. That's 400 grams, and that's going to be like 80 grams of protein. And you can kind of guesstimate that way. They're probably the options. Again, initially, I probably would say let's track a normal day, and let's just see where we're at without having to think about it. If we're way off, we can then start to tailor things a bit more in the right direction.
Yeah.
And likewise, if we're way over, we can actually, this is fine. You can just do that. It's not going to be a problem.
So just to pause you on that bit, so just so I can make sure we can summarise everything as we go along. So in terms of tracking, so let's say, and I agree with this, and the majority of people who I can see on here have had some form of interaction with us. So in terms of what I would say to you, is that we get everyone to track their food for 2 weeks. And because what everyone usually does before they come and see me and you, they feel like they have to fix everything. So they start eating like they think we want them to eat. So they end up start eating fruit, veg, cutting down the calories, no alcohol, no chocolate. But it's not a real understanding of what their lifestyle is. So in terms of getting them to track their calories, their food, obviously it comes up with all their splits of where they're currently at on MyFitnessPal. Let's just use that as an example. Then from there, we then start to assess that, and we can then make the adjustments to their protein intake, which will then kind of levy out their carbs and fats.
Yeah, so essentially, if we're going from a tracking, let's say we are going from a tracking point of view. So we've worked out what we think our theoretical maintenance calories are for this person. So I'll give you an easy way of doing this now. If you're a female, take your body weight in kilograms, times it by 22. And if you're male, take your body weight in kilograms, times it by 24. That's going to give you a rough estimate of your basal metabolic rate. Okay, so the amount of energy you use doing nothing. If you've got a desk job, times this new number then by 1.1 to 1.2. Okay, if you're wanting to lose fat, you can go 1.1 and it'll just give you a bit more of a deficit. And then you're going to get a rough estimate of your daily calorific needs to maintain.
So just repeat that again. So just repeat that again in terms of like what's the equation that you work out what your basal metabolic rate is. So your minimum amount of calories of doing nothing.
Yeah. So really simply, it's just take your body weight in kilograms. If you're a male, times it by 24. If you're a female, times it by 22. And that's going to give you a really basic indication of your BMR. From there, depending on how active your job is, so we're basically adding in our kind of guesstimation of what our non-exercise activity is going to be. Most people with a desk job times it by 1.2, 1.1 or 1.2. If you have a more active job where you're on your feet most of the day, maybe 1.3, like builder, roofer, scaffolder, where you're always chucking stuff around, heavy, hard work. You could push to like 1.4, 1.5 maybe. This is going to give us a pretty good but albeit rough estimate of our maintenance calories, which we can then work off. So we can then figure out what our protein needs would be if, in theory, we're working off this 1.1 to 1.2 kilos. We convert that into calories. So let's say we're working off 2 grams for easy maths. That's 200 grams of protein a day for our 100 kilo person, which is 800 calories. Subtract that off the total that you've got from your maths. And then the remainder is basically what you make up from carbs and fats and alcohol. You can split that however you like. It doesn't really matter. if we're talking about fat loss. It's not going to make any difference.
Just trying to get the sound up. For some reason, I've got an issue with Instagram Live and sound at the minute.
Lost you.
There we go. Back in now. It's logged out. Back in again.
Where did you lose everyone?
Yeah, hopefully we've got everyone there. It was just literally like, for some reason, Instagram just went down. So I was like, they're doing.
What did you last hear?
So I heard you talking about the equations basically, and that was it. As long as everybody else has got the information, okay, I'm hoping that's come across clear.
Right, fine. Hopefully, it'll be on the Facebook one anyway. So I got to the point where I basically said, right, we've worked out our maintenance calories for our theoretical 100 kilogram person. You know, we know that we want around about 2 grams of protein per kilo for easy math, which is 200 grams a day. Work out the calories, times by 4, 800 calories. Knock that off whatever our maintenance number is, and then the remainder we've got to play with carbs and fats. I don't really mind how you get that. It's entirely up to you. It doesn't make any difference really to get to our maintenance calories. What we want to do is probably try and keep the fats not too low. Something like maybe 0.8 grams a kilo, just because fats are really important for hormone production and things like this. So, and for cell walls and all these sort of things. So dropping the fat too low, especially like if we're male as well, it was going to hit testosterone production and other hormones, especially as we get quite lean. But again, for most people, for a short period of time, if we're in a short diet, it's not going to have too much of an impact. So a bit of carbs and fats however you want. Mostly speaking, as long as we're going to stick overall within this calorie requirement to maintain our weight.
Yeah,
that's where I tend to start and say, like, look, if you've been dieting for ages, you're trying to lose weight, let's forget about that for now, and let's just try and maintain our weight for a little bit, get comfortable in this place you are, and try and just make sure that you can hold 100 kilos for 2 weeks on average. If we can do that, we know that what we're doing is working. We know that the maths is about right, and from there we can like, I'm going to 500 calories or 3,500 calories a week, which is enough in theory to knock down about half a week, maybe a little bit more. But we can then take
basically kind of like being. But the central tool is we need to start with a tracking method to have extremely good results as such.
Yeah, if we want to track, it's generally the most efficient way of doing it. As long as you're accurate the numbers you're putting into an app or whatever, it will give you pretty accurate. You can inform based on the data you've got. So this is where the scale weight is quite good. Weigh yourself daily, 10 times a day, build yourself a little graph, and then average it out across the week. Yeah, we will get fluctuations down day to day. It's the panic of people.
Yeah, and I also think this is the key thing where, and we could go on forever banging the drum about diet clubs and all this type of thing, but the problem is that it's not a race. And I think, and this is how I try and figure it out, is that if you are on a diet that you cannot see yourself standing for 12 months' time, long term, including with social events, including with holidays and all that stuff, then realistically, it's probably going to be the wrong diet for you to be healthy, almost. So in terms of, sustainability, I'm going to talk about more.
Yeah, so this is actually, I guess this is a good point to kind of loop back to the start where I was talking about the different definitions of diet, really, because you're absolutely right with what you say. Your maintenance diet has to be something that you are comfortable with, that you can almost do effortlessly to maintain your weight. That's the kind of the aim here. When it comes to like specific weight loss phases, shall we say, that doesn't have to. In fact, you don't really want it to be. You want it to kind of elicit the result of I'm going to lose 20 kilos, and then you've hopefully in that kind of built up the habits you need to maintain that weight and be happy there and be able to sustain it. So this is, I think, where people get a bit stuck because a lot of this earlier diet has to be sustainable. In reality, like, we want it to elicit a result, and then as long as you've got good support, which is such a huge thing, from either a coach or like family, whatever it is, who can help you kind of build good habits or positive habits that mean that when you get to your goal weight, you don't just slip back into old habits and loop around forever.
Yeah, just going back and back. So I think this is the key thing. What nobody ever does, they never think about maintaining their weight before losing again. Because and this is what I don't think people realise is exercise usually goes up when people are trying to lose weight. That increases stress on the body. They're usually stressed anyway, and then on the other side, when you're trying to lose weight, there's another stress on the body. So it's kind of like chill the fuck out a little bit, okay? Let your body get used to where it is, and then reassess and go back down. Because I totally agree with this method in terms of like people sometimes have this magic number in their head where they were 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But the problem is that 10 year ago target was not where they were in physicality. And I think the key person for this is that I'm going to use my trainer at 1 minute, Emily. Emily came to us as a client first. She was skinny as a rake, absolute skinny as a rake. She's now still skinny, but she's got a bod on her, like a really, like a good physique. And then in further terms of what Emily does, Emily weighs, I think, almost like 10 kilograms more than she did when she first started, but she looks completely different.
Yeah.
Now, this is not for everyone. If someone needs to lose weight, it's different. However, sometimes what you think you need to get down to isn't actually the goal or actually where you need to get to. Yeah. So I think in terms of this method about maintaining for a period of time to get your body to adapt will sometimes kickstart weight loss anyway. And I know there's been a few questions about the stubborn weight loss later on, but we'll go back to those questions after. So I think it's really, we're in a bit of a roll with where we're going with this part next.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, so I think that is a huge point, and it's something that's really worth taking a minute to kind of try and digest and accept if you are someone who's struggling with weight loss. And the point is that actually you might not be in the right place to lose weight mentally, like you just said. So especially if you're someone who's been trying for years and not had any success, where you constantly bounce back and forth. Actually, the best thing you can do is just pause, take stock of your situation, and maybe have a diet break and just try and build some good habits around a diet that you enjoy.
I think that's the key thing, okay, like good habits, all right?
Yeah.
So diet you enjoy doesn't mean four bottles of wine a week and 5 takeaways. As in, like, you enjoy that, but it's not necessarily good habits. And it is kind of not eliminating that. However, I would basically go down the route of saying, right, you need to be eating proper food, but not worrying about how much carbs are in it, how much protein is in it, and a lot of that thing. It's making sensible food choices. And I think sometimes it's like, would your granny or would your mum and dad feed you that when you was a kid? I think that's the simple analogy to get the two.
Yeah, I do think there's a definite. It's always a balance. It's such an individual thing. That's the hardest part I think people miss. Actually, like you said at the start, people will take advice from everywhere.
Yeah.
Probably because the mate said, I had great success on the dust diet.
Yeah.
Actually, is your lifestyle their lifestyle?
Yeah.
Do you enjoy the same things they do? Do you train? Do they not? All these things play into the big picture. Because if they're doing a diet that it might work for them and it might work really well, but the chances of you being able to like copy and paste that into your life that's completely different, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's too many people take advice from other people rather than doing it themselves. And I think a lot of time is the people that tell you they've got really fast results is that it's just your impatience. But it's like anything. If someone told you you can have £1 million tomorrow free of charge, it's going to be a catch. It's like if you can lose a stone in a month, okay, there's literally certain aspects of that is like, well, it could be good, but is it sustainability? Is it going to be a crash diet? Is it too much of a life change? Blah, 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 blah. But I think it's got to fit. And I think fitness and diet has got to fit into your lifestyle. Because everyone's individual.
Otherwise, it's just not going to last. You've got to enjoy what you're doing. You enjoy going out, and if you enjoy going to meals out, there's something you can absolutely focus really hard in your diet. Your life. It just means you're a bit more happy for the rest of the week, or equally when you're out. Maybe I'm not going to have a bottle of wine, maybe instead. Maybe I'll just have a
It's educating you with health choices. Yeah, health and life choices as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a balance. And the problem with saying that is that it's not sexy, it doesn't sell, because you're not capable of losing 10 kilos of, basically the stuff they're going to put straight back on because they've taken
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it, though? I think, let's stick with like weight loss to start with. So, what is a good amount of weight if you are being sensible? And what I mean by sensible is you're still having treats and you're not living at the gym. Okay, what is the good amount of weight and a healthy amount of weight to be losing weekly?
So I think setting your targets at, like I said before, that 500 calories, 3.5 calories is quite a good place. Not a huge amount in terms of relatively easy. So that's a good place.
Around about 5 kilo
of weight loss
a week.
If you're someone who's very overweight,
for example,
you could probably cut that amount
of calories.
Load. You could probably do
a day.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, you might lose a lot more weight anyway. Doing that initially, and then slow down, actually get lean. I think understanding actually, when you look at a lot of people on social media who are really shredded, whatever your body is, a good chunk of that is genetics. Another good chunk of it is actually it might be as hard for you to lose your 10 kilos still and not have a six pack as it is for them to go from being pretty shredded to really shredded. As hard to lose a bit of weight as for them to lose different, but you do have to remember that you're not there, and actually it's possibly going to be much harder, much longer process for you to get to that point.
But I also think this comes down to, I don't like I think it gets thrown around a lot, but like metabolic damage and metabolic rate. So what metabolic damage, from my understanding, and you're a lot more informed than this than I am, but it generally comes down to if somebody has been very, very stressed all their life, then their metabolic damage is going to be a little bit higher potentially. Okay. Also, if someone's been dieting constantly, then it's going to be harder for somebody to make adjustments to their diet. But it's also, I feel, it's in their head as well. It's trying to break down their habits about what they have instilled in their head, what healthy is. And I think if you've been a constant dieter who usually is Slimming World, Weight Watchers, keto, blah, 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 it's the same thing. It just cuts down the calories way too much. And all of a sudden you lose a massive track and then you can put loads of weight on it. And it's just constant yo. But I don't know what you think about that.
Yes, I think there's probably a few things. Firstly, metabolic damage aspect. So there is a phenomenon that happens when you do diet, or when you do lose a lot of weight, and that's called adaptive thermogenesis. So the body will naturally kind of down-regulate the amount of energy that it uses, because it's like a protective thing, right? If you're losing loads of weight really fast, it's like, well, it's not a bad thing. It does just mean that we have to bear it in mind. Yeah. We see this in polycystic ovary syndrome. If you have as a woman, the basal metabolic rate can be decreased by up to 40%. Which means one, losing weight is going to be really hard for you, especially if you're on the because you're not going to have a lot of calories and now you've got even less.
Yeah.
But that's one aspect. The other aspect is actually, if you're assuming you haven't got
dysfunction, which is the other, I think the other aspect.
Time when you've got metabolic, assuming you're like you've thyroid and you've not got adaptive thermogenesis will reverse when you go back and those calories. Yeah. It's not going to be, you're not broke. You'll
go back up to normal.
So let me just, I'm going to stop you midpoint there, all right? So maintenance calories. So obviously this comes back to realizing what your maintenance calories are. So I don't know how you do this, but I find that sometimes people feel like their magic number is 1,100 calories. or 1,000 calories, because that's what Slimming World told them, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I find that most people that come to us to start with, they either go one extreme or the other. They've been dieting, they've damn already been dieting, they've yo-yoed, they're off it, and they've had loads, and then they start losing loads of weight. Then they get stuck at eating very, very little. And then they never have the confidence to increase again. So in terms of that, like finding your maintenance calorie, like how do you approach that? Because obviously, that's obviously, like you said, it's about getting that firm genesis back again.
So, I mean, we've got two ways of doing it. One is you track maths and say it's going to be about this X number based on what. The other one is find the point at which your weight stabilizes. And if your weight's stable for 2, 3, 4 weeks, you can get your at maintenance. Your average weight is 60 kilos 4 weeks. Your at maintenance calories with the amount of activity you're doing versus the amount of weight. That's probably the best way to kind of get it right. But it also gives you quite a nice feel for what you're eating. You can eat it last month, and my weight's the same. That's probably my way. If you're someone who's been eating like horribly low calories, you're probably feeling terrible. Then the thing is, it can be quite hard to convince yourself that you're going to lose some weight, or at least that you're going to possibly lose some weight. I guess the thing is, what's going to happen is you're going to eat more, you're probably going to feel better, you're going to do more. And actually, it might your overall lifestyle might probably improve. You might again remember, it's not the end of the world. Like, as long as you're not piling the donut and you're massively overdoing it, if it's a gradual, sensibly approached process, just maintenance calories. Give it a week or two. If you've overshot it, we readjust. We've got time to do that. There's no panic.
And I think this is where the whole 6-week bod goes out the window. Where you think in your head, isn't it?
Yeah, and a lot of the time, actually, you go calories, you end up losing a lot of that. You end up losing a lot of water. There's not a huge amount of fat that goes through it. Probably going to put it back on because there's not enough time to build a habit. Re-establish a healthy relationship. I think is the hardest and the most important thing to do.
So let's go to this sort of tie into one of the questions. So Steph said, is it just me, or is the last stone and a half always the hardest to shift? So I'm assuming this is going to be down to, and knowing Steph, I know what this is talking about, is that she did absolutely epic. She lost shed loads of weight, but then the problem, what I find that happens when this happens, is that sometimes the focus goes, okay, or they don't have a maintenance phase. They're constantly just pushing it, and nothing changes. Like, why do you find that the last bit of body fat loss, bit of weight loss is the hardest bit?
Well, thanks for the question. Actually, it's quite tricky because, again, it comes back to the point you probably made a little bit earlier, which was that maybe the amount of weight that you want to lose isn't actually the amount of weight that you're going to lose, if that makes sense. So if you've been training and you want to lose 10 kilos, actually, if you over time, if you account for the fact you probably built some muscle and you've lost some fat, that might actually equate to 4 kilos, 5 kilos, 6 kilos, or anywhere in between. So it might actually be that could be an element of it. The other element would be if you've been stuck for a while, give yourself a break. There's absolutely nothing wrong with giving yourself a break. Try and maintain your weight. Try and maintain your weight on as many calories as you can as well. A good thing. You might find that actually get away with a little bit more than you go better for it. And then you've got comfortable, then actually reassess. And you can think, well, do I actually want to strive for 2 or 3 kilos weight loss? What will that look like to me? Will it impact my life positively in the net? Or is it actually going to be so much more like to get there that it's not worth it?
And I think also, like, in terms of you saying about, so knowing Steph, knowing a lot of people what's quite, and this is really blanket statement. So this is going to be like, forgive me if it's not personalised to everyone, but the main thing what I would say to a lot of people when they've been stuck for a long while is that their training hasn't changed. So what I mean by that is that they're probably doing the same amount of training. So sometimes if you've been drinking a lot or eating a lot of crap, and then you cut that out, start eating better and training 2 to 3 times a week, fairly hard, but consistently, you'll lose weight gradually. But then the problem is that you get to a certain stage, and this is where the weight isn't necessarily the weight that you want to lose, is that it's actually body development. So when it becomes the body development, you need to start to train probably a little bit differently. So that might mean that you need to be doing splits. It might mean you do training 4 times a week. It might be that your daily activity needs to go up more. There's lots of different factors that can factor in, but it's not always down to the weight. And I think that's one thing where people tend to overlook is it's like, I'm doing the exact same thing that I've always been doing. Why aren't I still losing weight? And I think the break is, like I said, you need a bit of a break. You sometimes need to change things up.
Yeah, there's that, and there's also actually a point I just thought of. If you've been dieting for a long time and you've been dieting on the same diet for a long time, eventually you'll reach a point where you hit this kind of this floor, which is your new maintenance, and that might feel like, well, I'm still dieting because you've not changed, but actually the body weight's come down to a point where that is actually your maintenance calories, which might actually either this is where it's probably quite a good time to have a break, but you probably need to drop your calories off a little bit more, potentially, or increase your exercise a little bit to create a deficit, or a bit of both.
Yeah, and I think also you've got to understand as well, if you feel like you can't drop them anymore, then it's probably not your goal that you want to go any lower. Because it's also about, there is obviously a limit where you go down to, but I think a lot of it is that if you've got to increase your training, you've got to drop down, then probably you need to reevaluate your goal and what you want to look like. Because most of the time is if you want to have a smoking hot bod, what looks freaking epic in a bikini, then the problem is that 1 is genetics, but 2, it's also a different lifestyle, different commitments. And knowing Steph, she's got kids, she's got a really high pressure job, and time is not of her essence. So, like I said, it might be a few different things.
Yeah, I think that's also a huge point. Is it coming back? It always comes back to the lifestyle. You know, if you do have other things that are bigger priorities, then it's going to be a lot harder than. Also, probably worth thinking about like what you're comparing yourself to. Like, are you comparing yourself to yourself in your 20s, where you did have a very different lifestyle. You probably you can also tolerate, get away with a bit more when you're younger. Like we all know that, like metabolism changes as you get older a little bit. Priorities change. All these things play a factor. Yeah, it is important to consider. Like, actually, what is your wife doing it? I think.
I totally agree with that. So like I said, guys, if you've got any more questions, post them in. We've got a couple at the minute we're going to go through. So we've got one here, which is Camp Maca. So this is going to be going down a rabbit hole, I think, a little bit, but we'll have a look. Any recommendations on increasing protein, but on a low meat diet?
Yeah, so there's definitely there's a fair few vegan supplements out there at the moment, like pea proteins and things like that you can use. They're pretty good. You probably would go down the vegetarian vegan source of food. So I think that your corn is quite high right there. The mycoprotein they use is mushroom. Those options can be really good. They're high in protein. They're a complete protein source. So they contain all the amino acids you need, basically. So it's very similar to what you get from your animal protein. Yeah. They're probably the go-tos in terms of efficiency that I commonly suggest. Unless you want to be eating, kilos and kilos of veg. That sort of thing. They're probably the two go for. But if you want more, I can go for sure.
Cool. So basically looking at more about supplementation with different things that way.
Yeah, I mean, like, especially in the UK, like food science has improved so much in the last year. More vegan style, bacon and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, some of the meat free.
They still contain protein. It's still a complete protein source.
Yeah, it's still going to have
a similar effect. You might have a bit more of it if it's plant-based protein because the body's not as effective at
utilizing it.
But in a nut, it's going to have the same.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. And like next week, we are talking about plant-based nutrition, so it will be good to do that, but it is a lot harder. A lot harder.
It definitely can be harder to be.
I think there's a bit of I was just saying quickly, there's a bit of impression about
yeah.
It's not also
healthy. It's as healthy if it's done well. The
problem with it is
you're cutting out food groups. You're cutting out meat. You're cutting out dairy. You're cutting out eggs. You're cutting out fish.
all these are really easy
sources of protein and fat. Of calories.
And of micronutrients as well, like B12, iron, folate, those sorts of things. Unless you actually are quite into your where you can get that from your basic diet.
Possibly will need to just think about it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we all need to eat more plants. We need to all eat more veggies, but I think a lot of it is that at this moment in time, it's getting better, but it's not as accessible as being more of a higher meat or fish eater as such.
I mean, it's easy to hit micronutrient target, certainly, if you're eating.
Yeah, definitely. Right, okay, so we've got Jill now. It's hard to lose weight if you're within the recommended weight range for your height. So I'm assuming this is aiming at body fat reduction.
Okay.
Rather than weight. So for me, like if you are not focused on weight loss, but you're focusing on body fat reduction, like is it different to approach to if you are looking at losing weight?
No, I wouldn't say it is, because most people, when most people say they want to lose weight, they're talking about losing fat in reality. So what we want to do is take a similar approach, approaching towards the higher end of our range, so that when we are in this calorie deficit, we're going to be holding on to as much muscle as possible. Keep training, keep trying to progressively overload. That's also going to keep the muscles, building or at least maintaining. And then that allows the fat will then come off as a result of that, more so than it would do otherwise. You actually don't lose that much muscle in a moderate deficit diet, generally speaking, if you're training inside it and if you do it intelligently. But you're right, if you're towards like the lower end of the BMI scale, which is what you're saying, the range of height is basically higher.
Yeah.
If you're at the lower end of that scale, I would argue you don't want to think about losing fat too much or losing weight too much, unless you're already quite muscular. Just from a health point of view, again, if you want to competition lean or pretty lean, that's fine. But from a health point of view, as long as you stay within that range, quite healthily, you're fine. It indicates fine. I won't say you're definitely fine, but you can then obviously, if you want to do something fine, but just be aware that you don't want to drop too far to the bottom. And yes, it's really hard because you're probably already kind of a normal-ish.
It's like marginal gains, isn't it? So it's looking at that. All I'm looking to go. So I've literally we're coming to the hour mark. So we do get cut off. We'll come back on shortly. I'm holding my phone like a weirdo because my phone's about to die as well. So we've got 2 more questions that have come through. And then we'll finish up. So I'm 31. I feel like I'm massively struggling with recovery and joint pain. So basically, that's the question. So in terms of like joint pain and recovery, what would your big recommendation be for that?
I would say first off, is it like, what kind of joint pain is it? That's the first thing to identify. Is why is it because you've got that? Eliminate that first. Like, is it after? Hopefully not. If it's not, great. Just because probably of your lifestyle. I would then suggest move more. Generally speaking, if you've got pain, is to move through a pain-free range to start with and build that over time. That's where you're going to enable the joints to recover because you're getting that transfer of fluid and you're getting more blood to the area and all that sort of stuff. that's probably the go-to from a joint pain management issue. From without knowing more, it's quite hard to say anything else.
I think a main thing would be is go back to what we spoke about, like track. Like if it's a recovery, I think it's literally track to see what's in your diet and then see what's missing, and then start to work. But at the end of the day, if it's getting to a point where it's getting chronic, you need to start to reaching out to people to try and get some kind of help.
Yeah, I think to give an appropriate answer to that question, I probably would like to get more information.
Yeah.
Having said that, recovery is going to be down to a couple of things. One, two, are you actually training too much for what you can recover from? And three, if you're not eating enough, or if you're trying to lose weight at the same time, and you're training too much, and you're not sleeping, altogether you're going to not recover very well.
Yeah.
Also, that could be potentially that is an aspect out there as well. Maybe actually just take everything back and reassess.
And I think it comes down to the basics of like food, sleep, rest. Like those three things are the fundamental of anybody's life. If you're not doing that, then you can't expect to progress or feel good. Everything else is additional. But like I said, I think you hit the nail on the head with that, mate. Right, next one is Maya. What about detox diets to clean your body from toxins? Is it actually a good thing for your body?
So this is I've talked about a fair bit actually. The whole concept of detox diets is pretty much rubbish. The basic premise is you have kidneys, you have a liver. They are the detoxification mechanisms for everything from everything you urinate out basically is like let's call it a urea. When you drink, that gets processed and you urinate out. They're the kind of things that we need to not worry about because the liver and kidneys can deal with it. If you've got an issue with drinking too much, it's going to hammer your liver. Just drink less. In reality, if you're going on a detox diet, it's not really going to do anything other than you might lose weight because if you're going to carry deficit, you will lose weight. It might make you feel good, probably because it's going to be including more fruit and veggies in your diet, and you're going to be eating a bit better, and you're going to become more health conscious probably for that time period. You might start training more, you might start trying to sleep better, you can be focusing on eating more. But the actual concept of it is I want to say yes, basically.
Yeah.
If anyone ever tries to do a detox diet and says toxins, ask them what toxins. They will not be able to give you specifics. I guarantee it. And they'll say, but free radicals and oxidative stress, and you're like, okay, what is that? Keep digging, and eventually there's not going to be a backing for it within science.
And I think we haven't spoke about this, and I think we'll probably speak about this another time as well. But I generally think like diets are sold by people on the side who are doing it from a side hustle, and also potentially do not look that healthy themselves in terms of they're a little bit overweight as well. And Steph's just fucking beat me to it. What about Herbalife? Right, so literally this is the one thing what I'm talking about as well a little bit now. So basically there's different ways. I call Herbalife reps, Arbonne reps, what else is it? Forever Living. What else is there? There's loads of other ones.
I can't follow.
There's loads of these things. The problem what most of these are done is it's sold by Avon ladies of the fitness industry. And all they are just trying to make more money on the side, okay? They do not understand the fundamentals about nutrition majority of the time. Some do, and some have a different opinion about nutrition, which is fine. However, it's when it's marketed as, like I said, detox, toxins, it's nothing to do with that. It's about that you're increasing the amount of vitamins and minerals that's coming in. And I feel like I've just gone on a proper fucking rant now. But it annoys me. And I'll admit, I sold Arbonne and Herbalife when I first started out in the industry. And I purely did it because I wanted free supplements. That's the only reason. And I believe the bloke that sold it to me. And that's fine, okay? I learn from my mistakes. However, ask questions about why. So if we're telling you to do something, ask why, okay? So we can actually come up for it.
Yeah, I would definitely say that, anything that I've said, if you've got a question about it, go and ask, get a second, third opinion, by all means, and get a body of evidence together. But when it comes to things like, let's say toxins, for example, what do people always quote? Like, I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole of like vaccines and stuff because I just haven't got the time for it. But people say, oh, there's this in it, there's that in it, and it's like, right, okay, but the poison is in the dose always. Pharmaceuticals, everything. Just have a look and be a bit more savvy, I suppose, to kind of asking questions and digging in to the person who's trying to sell you it. If they can't answer your questions, or they get really defensive, or they're not prepared to say, oh, I don't know, I'll go and look it up for you, just walk away and go and find someone else.
And another one is, I would say, find somebody else that sells it and ask them the same question. If it's the same answer, they've been told it in a training platform, or they've been given a leaflet with some marketing spiel on. That's another tip for it. But the main thing is, like I said, in terms of, if anything sounds like it's too good to be true, it is, unfortunately. Like nutrition isn't sexy. It's simple. But it is. Yeah, it is. Everything's so basic and simple. And I think the key thing that I would say to this, and we'll wrap it up soon as well, if no one else has got any questions, but I would say to you about this is that tracking and doing the simple things consistently is the way forward of any diet. To lose weight, lose fat, build muscle, get fitter, help your recovery is this key focus. If you're looking at doing something quick, so for example, you're on a holiday in 4 weeks' time, you want to lose a bit of weight, then just be good and consistent for 4 weeks. And yes, if you lose it quick, you're going to put it on quicker. So just be basic.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Just try and take some time. Like, you have got time, so just try and take that out of the equation and try not to rush anything. But try and take a bit of time to get really comfortable with what is your maintenance calories. Get comfortable with shifting your weight up and down as you choose, not at random. So if you think of it, this is a really good analogy that Greg Slater and another chap who works for LTB uses it. It's like the diet dimmer switch. So set your switch to like medium, and that is your maintenance calories. When you want to lose a bit of weight, you just want to tighten the screws a little bit, maybe restrict a few things a bit. Don't cut anything out, but just have smaller portions, or maybe go out less and maybe exercise a bit more. And you could just adjust it. And if you want to gain weight a little bit or build some muscle, you can just loosen it off a little bit, add a few more calories here and there. And you can just control it and just have a play around with that for 6 months or whatever.
Yeah.
And get comfortable. And then if you want to go on your holiday in 3 months' time, and you want to be in a better shape, that whatever you think, you can just do it, and you can control it. So you can control it in. You can be as lean as you want to be for your holiday. You can then loosen it back off on the holiday, so you don't have to take Tupperware to the beach, and then you're back to normal. So it's just about actually understanding.
And I think it's the exact same point, isn't it?
Just be more comfortable in taking the time to actually just learn a bit more about yourself and be a bit more kind of what's the word? I
think we just lost James a little bit.
Learn a bit more about yourself
on this one. See if the lock's back in.
But hopefully you can hear
me. Right. Let's see if he will reply to this, because I don't know if he's on it. So, James, if you just log into this, I think you've just frozen, mate. But it looks like it might be a good time to wrap up soon. So, come back on.
Your Instagram's frozen, mate.
Right, we're going to go unmute this. So if you just go onto your laptop, mate. There we go. You're kind of frozen on Instagram on my side. I don't know if it's just me or
on mine, so I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, cool. So literally, the main thing, like I would say in terms of this, like it's been awesome that you've been coming on, mate. And like I said, nutrition, you go down a rabbit hole with everything. But like I said, just do me a favor, just type in your Instagram handle, okay, on Facebook, so on Instagram. I'll pop some details in the Facebook group, and also just let people know a bit about what you're doing. And obviously, 'cause I know you just launched an online program at the minute, you do online training. So just tell a little bit of people about that.
Yeah, so at the moment I run obviously one-to-one coaching nutrition online. Like there is a package service together, or if you just want the nutrition side of things, just specifically focusing on the nutrition. Again, they're completely bespoke services. So we'll dig right into what it is that you specifically need for that. The current online program that I'm running is a group program. It's basically designed to get you set up back for when gyms open in theory, hopefully on the 12th of April. So 6 weeks of building good habits and basically building your body at home, getting moving well, feeling better, and then just transitioning straight through into the gym. But if anyone has any questions, I'm always more than happy to answer them. So just fire them across to me on Instagram, or you can email me at info@jailfitnesssolutions.co.uk.
Cool. So, phone just started to go. So I've literally done it. So my phone is literally gone overheated for some reason, so it's dead now. And as you can see, I've smashed my phone at the same time. So other than that, guys, thank you for tuning in and thank you for watching. Other than that, guys, I will hopefully see you all next week with Will from FitPack, who will be talking about plant-based nutrition and how that works and what it is a bit more detail. Other than that, James, thanks a lot. Cool, and I'll see you soon. I'll just end the stream, mate, and then we'll have a chat.
Yeah, brilliant.